Welcome back. You tuned into Inspired Afternoons, and now it's time for our weekly environmental feature. And today we're going to be speaking to attorney Tim Lloyd, and he's from the Center for Environmental Rights, which is a non-profit organization and law clinic based in Cape Town, South Africa. They are activist lawyers who assist communities and civil society organizations throughout South Africa to realize their constitutional right to a healthy environment by advocating as well as litigating for environmental justice. The center was established in 2009 by 8 nonprofit civil society organizations in South Africa's environmental and environmental justice sector to provide legal and related support to environmental public interest organizations, community organizations, and communities. They opened their doors in April 2010, and the vision of the organization is to seek a just, equitable, compassionate society which is resilient, celebrates diversity, and respects the interdependence between people and the environment. The mission of the Center for Environmental Rights defends the right of communities and civil society organizations to environment, not harmful to health or well-being for present and future generations. By advocating and litigating for environmental justice, they seek to advance the vision of a just, equitable, compassionate society which is resilient, celebrates diversity, and respects the interdependence between people and the environment. And after reading this, I'm so truly proud that we have such an organization, such a progressive organization in our country. And you have another fan here. Good afternoon, Tim, and welcome to Salam Media, your humanitarian online platform.
Hi there, Miriam. Thank you so much for having me on your show this afternoon.
Absolute pleasure. And that's what we aim to do here at our humanitarian journalism, is to provide a platform for such centers, for such civic organizations and community organizations, where this is the platform to highlight issues that affect communities and individuals. And you're right, a right to a clean environment, fresh air to breathe is a basic human right. And for too long, corporates and corporate giants have been trampling on the little guys, so to speak, as if we don't matter, we don't care. They can pollute the environment and then live in pristine environments because they have the funding to do so, and they are not held accountable. Until now, that is the Center for Human Rights are going to take them to task. So the little man has now clout behind them. So tell us a little bit more, before we go on to the case I want to discuss. So just tell us a little bit more about the center.
Of course, Mary. Well, thank you very much for that detailed introduction to the center and what it is that we do. Perhaps I could add to that. So thank you for recognizing the clinic, but I must say we are not able to do the work that we do without our partner organizations that we work very closely with, as well as community-based organizations on the ground mobilizing individual activists as well, who act to protect not only their and their families' constitutional rights, but those of their fellow community members, wherever they may be in South Africa. And maybe to introduce another campaign, which is very much associated with this piece of air pollution that we're going to discuss now, and that is the Life After Coal campaign. It's a coalition made up of the right Groundwork, who's one of the applicants of this air pollution case, and a third part, Earth Life Africa. And this Life After Coal coalition was established about 7 years ago, and it really has three main objectives in the public interest. And the first is to discourage the development of new coal mines, new coal-fired power generations, which have harmful and unjustifiable impacts on people's health and other fundamental rights. The second is to ensure that existing coal mines and coal-fired power stations actually comply with environmental and other basic laws that are in place to reduce the air pollution. And then the third, which those first two objectives work toward, is to ensure a just transition in South Africa to a sustainable energy mix for the people of South Africa. So that's really the broader overarching strategy. And at the center of this, among the other work that we're active in, is this air pollution case known as the Deadly Air litigation.
Yes, so tell us about this case, a little bit about the history and where are you at now in terms of the case. I see it's going to be heard on May 2020, which is a long journey when you started to get to this point. So just give us a brief history for my listeners who are not aware about the case, and then until how we're getting ready for this, which everybody's calling a landmark case in South Africa.
Of course, ma'am. So, most importantly, to repeat that the hearing date for this piece of litigation is in the Pretoria High Court from the 17th to the 19th of May 2021, so in the first half of next year. So a very promising step that we have a hearing date for argument to be set out to the court, and then we'll wait for a judgment to follow. But there is some important history up to this piece of litigation. So I'll give you the brief version of that history, and that is this case really revolves around these very dangerous levels of air pollution that we see in the Highveld area, and the fact that people living and working in parts of the Highveld are on a daily basis breathing in levels of air pollution that are harmful to their health and well-being. And there are two things that we're asking from the court specifically in our relief in this case. And the first is asking the court to declare that there is in fact a breach of people's Section 24 right, that is the right to an environment not harmful to their health and well-being. And secondly, to compel the government, the South African government, to take further measures, regulatory measures that are provided for in our law already, to rectify the chronic toxic levels of air pollution that we see in the Highveld area. And at the center of this is what is called the Highveld Priority Area. And to help locate your listeners, it really covers a large portion of the Mpumalanga province, as well as Eastern Gauteng. So it starts basically from OR Tambo International Airport in Eastern Gauteng, and the N12 and N4 highways really go through the gut of the Highveld Priority Area. So all those power stations you drive past, the coal mines you drive past, these are the dominant sources contributing to these levels of air pollution in the area. And the Highveld Priority Area was declared by government in 2007 in terms of our Air Quality Act, because it recognized these chronic levels of air pollution and the direct impacts that this air pollution was having on people's health and their rights. So they said, we have this problem and we need to develop what is called an air quality management plan, which they did only 5 years later. So that was the air quality management plan was published in 2012. And the plan is really there to rectify this chronic air pollution that we see. But what we found through a piece of research, a report that CER did with groundwork, and another network of organizations called the Highveld Environmental Justice Network, HEGEN, was a report called the Broken Promises Report, published in October 2017. And it's about the failure of this Highveld Priority Area. So despite its declaration, despite the air quality management plan, we were now a decade on, and there had not been an improvement in the levels of air quality. And in fact, in some areas, there seemed to be a deterioration of the quality of air. And government had made minimal progress in actually implementing an enforcement plan to fix the situation. So this was the Broken Promises report launched in October 2017. We engaged with government on this report saying, here's the current situation. There's still a massive issue, these high levels of air pollution. This plan is not effective. What are the next steps, government, that you're going to take to address the situation? And unfortunately, we had a number of, again, failed attempts from government to respond to the Broken Promises finding. And really, the upshot of that was a letter that we eventually got from the former Minister of Environmental Affairs, Minister Mokunyane. And in that letter in May 2019, May of last year, her department didn't concede that there's a breach of constitutional environmental rights. And in that letter, the department were comfortable that there were no compelling reasons, in their view, to take any further step. And it's essentially that letter that we've taken on review to the High Court, challenging that position, asking the court to set that aside, to declare that the breach of constitutional rights, and to compel the government to take further measures to fix the situation.
So, Tim, if government is conceding there's no compelling reasons and they need to implement whatever, so why do we have to go to court? Why are they not then just implementing what they had agreed to do that time and they acknowledged 5 years prior? Why do we have to get to this type and get to this point? I mean, wasting taxpayers' money, because essentially government's going to
approaching the court.
Mm-hmm. Tom, go ahead.
Sorry. Please finish your question and then I'll respond.
No, that's what I'm just trying to understand here. When government goes to court, it's my money, my tax money and your tax money that's going to court, and getting the court then to give an order, a court order to do what governments are entrusted to do. And the fact that, as you've said, they had this plan, it was acknowledged 5 years later, came up with a plan, had this, then give you this no compelling reasons why it's not implemented, and then you're taking this to court and going on review. So I can't understand now why is the issue that it has to go to court. Where is the contention, basically?
So, Miriam, I think as you would have gathered, this approaching the court is very much a measure of last resort. We had tried everything else with the applicants in the case, our client's groundwork. The second applicant, just to pick that up here, is the Vulcani Environmental Movement. They're a community-based environmental justice organization based in Imlahleni, which is one of the pollution hotspots in the Highveld.
Yes, I was due to interview them.
Really, over the last 7 years, Sorry?
No, you can go ahead, Tom. I think we have a problem, a delayed connection here, but please do go ahead. Tom, can you hear me?
I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Now I can.
Yes, Miriam, I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
That's better. So over 6 or 7 years, with the applicants, we've been engaging in these stakeholder forums to ensure the implementation of this air quality management plan to fix the pollution in the area, as well as other advocacy activities, trying to ensure that the air pollution laws that apply here are actually properly enforced, especially when it comes to the larger polluters like Eskom, like Sasol. So approaching the High Court was very much a measure of last resort. And as I explained, it followed that 9 May letter of response from the Department of Environmental Affairs to say that they don't see a breach of constitutional rights and they don't believe they need to take any further action on the management plan and the laws that are in place. So it's the essence of that letter that we're taking on review before the High Court. But look, we're going to have to wait. So as I said, the hearing date is 17 to 19 May next year, over 3 days. Government's answering affidavit, which is essentially their defense to the claims that are set out in groundwork in the application. Their answering affidavit's due by the end of January. So we're going to have to wait and see what position they take, what stance they take in the answering affidavits. I don't think it's appropriate for me to speculate at this stage. But also to mention that for those listeners that would like to...
Tom, I was going to put you on the spot and ask you, what do you think? I'm sure you have some idea or you know, I mean, you experience in this field. So I'm sure you know they might have some other strategy in terms of dealing this or putting that way to go. So I don't know, would you be comfortable in sharing what do you think the response is going to be in terms of the position they are going to take?
Miriam, yeah, I'm afraid it really would be speculation for me to question at this stage. What I can say is we've gathered from the state attorneys acting for the government respondents that I think that the particular issue that they want to contest here is the relief that government, or that the air pollution is a breach of constitutional environmental rights. Which I think it's fair to say that government were always going to fight that, because that's legal precedent with quite far-reaching implications and consequences. So I think it's probably that particular piece of relief that government are going to ostensibly in the answering affidavit. Their strategy in going about that.
Tim, can you hear me? Tim, let me just ask Ziad if we can just raise. Tim, let's just see if we can just raise Ziad, please, if we can just get them. I just want him to conclude. Maybe let's go for a short break and we can get them to wrap up. Welcome back. Unfortunately, we can't raise Tim. Today seems to be another one of those network and connection days. Tim is speaking from Cape Town. However, what we'll do is we are going to follow up. So in January, after government sends, once the organization, the Center for Environmental Rights, receives government's responding affidavit in terms of the position government is going to take in this case, we will then get Tim back on line, as well as the lawyers that are representing government on this landmark environmental case. So we will keep you posted. Fascinating indeed, as Tim had mentioned. The bone of contention is if government concedes the right to a clean air is a basic constitutional human right, then that will have far wider implications for communities living in compromised air regions nationwide. So looking forward to that. Until next week, when we meet again next week, Monday, may you be under the mercy and protection of the Almighty. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.